Far beneath the waves, where sunlight cannot reach, and the silence of the ocean is absolute, a hidden fleet carries out some of the United States' most important military missions. These submarines, each worth billions of dollars, are more than machines of war. They are mobile cities, sealed steel worlds designed to remain underwater for months at a time. Every maneuver, every decision, every breath of life inside depends entirely on the men and women trained to operate them. But before a sailor can be trusted to step aboard one of these vessels, they must endure a training pipeline that pushes both body and mind to the limit. This journey is not only about learning to live in tight quarters or memorizing technical systems. It is about transforming a civilian into a submariner, someone capable of functioning in the most isolated and unforgiving environment on Earth. From the moment a recruit raises their right hand and swears the oath, they are on a path that will take them through months of instruction, sleepless drills, and relentless testing. The smallest mistake at sea could mean disaster, so training demands perfection long before they ever set foot on a submarine. The road to becoming part of the submarine force involves mastering far more than the fundamentals of the Navy. Sailors learn to navigate life in a vessel where every inch of space is used, where air is recycled, and where fire, flooding, or mechanical failure could spell catastrophe. They are placed in simulators that mimic life-threatening emergencies, forcing them to react under stress until their responses are automatic. They crawl through smoke-filled compartments, seal leaks with only seconds to spare, and prepare for the terrifying possibility of abandoning ship through a vertical escape tower filled with water. This is not training for the faint of heart. It is designed to forge resilience, discipline, and teamwork in the face of absolute pressure. Each sailor must prove they are ready to join a force that operates unseen, carrying out silent patrols that can shape the balance of global power. And when they finally graduate, they will have earned more than a qualification. They will have proven themselves capable of living and fighting beneath the sea. The process of preparing sailors for life on board a submarine is unlike any other training in the U.S. Navy. While every recruit begins at the same place boot camp, those selected for submarine duty follow a path that quickly branches into specialized instruction. From day one, they are introduced to the reality that the submarine force is small, elite, and demanding. Every sailor has to carry more responsibility than they would on the surface fleet, because there are fewer people to divide the workload. After completing the initial 8 weeks of Navy boot camp in Great Lakes, Illinois, recruits headed for submarine duty continue on to advanced schools that immerse them in the technical skills and survival training needed for undersea service. Instructors emphasize not only mechanical systems and navigation, but also mental endurance. Living underwater for months at a time requires a unique mindset, and training reflects this. Sailors spend weeks in classrooms learning the inner workings of nuclear propulsion, sonar, and weapon systems. They study schematics until they can recall them from memory, since in an emergency there is no time to look up procedures. At the same time, they undergo constant drills to build muscle memory for damage control, emergency response, and shipboard firefighting. The expectation is clear. By the time they board their first submarine, they must be capable of handling the unexpected without hesitation. But the training pipeline is not only technical, it is designed to instill the sense of unity that life on a submarine demands. In a vessel where privacy is virtually non-existent and sailors may spend weeks submerged without seeing daylight, teamwork becomes essential. Recruits learn to rely on one another in every drill, because when the real emergencies come, survival will depend on trust and coordination. The pace is intense and unrelenting. Instructors deliberately layer stress on the sailors, pushing them into scenarios where fatigue, confusion, and urgency collide. They might be woken in the middle of the night to simulate a fire. They might be ordered to respond to a flooding compartment while alarms blare. In each case, the training reinforces one lesson: hesitation can be deadly. Ultimately, the overview of submarine training reveals why it is considered one of the most demanding paths in the military. It combines the physical rigor of traditional boot camp with the intellectual challenges of engineering school, all under the pressure of life or death simulations. Those who cannot adapt will be reassigned. Those who succeed earn the right to join a community that operates in the most secretive and unforgiving environment on Earth. Becoming part of the Navy's submarine force begins long before a recruit ever steps onto a pier or sees the inside of a submarine. The process starts with selection. Not every sailor can qualify, and the standards reflect the high-stakes nature of life beneath the ocean. Because submarines operate with small crews on billion-dollar vessels powered by nuclear reactors, the Navy screens for candidates who demonstrate not only physical capability, but also mental toughness and technical aptitude. First, recruits must meet the same basic eligibility standards as any sailor in the U.S. Navy. This includes passing medical exams, background checks, and the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, ASVAB, the series of tests that evaluate skills in mathematics, mechanical comprehension, electronics, and other key areas. But the submarine community takes it a step further. High scores in science and technology fields are often required, because sailors will be expected to handle complex systems ranging from sonar arrays to nuclear propulsion. Medical screening is especially strict. Submarine duty demands excellent vision, hearing, and respiratory health. Even minor issues that might go unnoticed in other jobs could disqualify a candidate. The reason is simple. Once a submarine is submerged, medical resources are extremely limited. There is no hospital to transfer to, no quick evacuation. Every sailor must be capable of enduring the physical stresses of pressure changes, confined living, and extended deployments in an isolated environment. Beyond physical fitness, mental stability is paramount. Submariners live in close quarters with the same small group of people for months at a time. Privacy is virtually non-existent, and the stress of confinement can take a toll. For that reason, psychological evaluations are part of the screening process. The Navy looks for individuals who can adapt to stress, remain calm under pressure, and function as part of a tightly knit team. A single disruptive personality can undermine cohesion in a submarine crew, so the selection process filters out those who may not be suited for this lifestyle. Once a recruit is accepted, the path forward begins with standard Navy boot camp, where discipline, basic seamanship, and military customs are instilled. For those on the submarine track, however, the mindset is slightly different from the start. They know that after boot camp, they will enter specialized schools that prepare them for one of the most demanding jobs in the Navy. This expectation sets a tone of seriousness early. Instructors at Great Lakes emphasize resilience, technical precision, and accountability, reinforcing that submarine duty is not for those seeking comfort or an easy path. Even the culture of the submarine force differs from other parts of the Navy. Submariners often describe themselves as a family within a family, a small, elite community that shares hardships most other sailors will never experience. For that reason, recruits who choose this path often feel a sense of pride even before their training is complete. They know they are volunteering for a life that is equal parts challenging and prestigious, one that requires more than just passing grades on tests. Ultimately, the requirements serve a dual purpose. They ensure the safety of billion-dollar submarines and nuclear technology, but they also protect the crew themselves. Every submariner depends on the reliability, competence, and stability of the sailor next to them. From the very beginning of enlistment, the Navy makes it clear. If you want to serve beneath the sea, you must prove that you can be trusted in a world where there is no margin for error. For most recruits, the first time they step into a submarine is a moment they will never forget. The experience is overwhelming, not because of vast size or luxury, but because of the exact opposite, the sheer compactness of everything inside. Submarines are designed to maximize every square inch of space, and the result is a living and working environment unlike anything on land. Walking through the hatches feels more like crawling into a machine than entering a ship. Passageways are narrow, often requiring sailors to turn sideways to let another person pass. Pipes, valves, and control panels line the walls, leaving little room for anything that isn't directly tied to the mission. Overhead clearance is low, and sailors quickly learn to duck or move carefully to avoid bumping into steel beams. For a new trainee, the submarine can feel like a maze, but for the crew, every piece of equipment has a purpose, and every corner is familiar. The heart of the submarine is its control room. Here, sailors manage navigation, communication, sonar, and weapon systems. Unlike the bridge of a surface ship, the control room is buried deep inside the hull, hidden from natural light and the outside world. Rows of monitors and consoles replace windows, and instead of looking outward, submariners rely entirely on instruments to understand where they are and what surrounds them. For a trainee, the first time sitting at these stations is sobering. They realize that when the submarine dives, their survival depends on interpreting screens, dials, and signals with absolute precision. Sleeping arrangements are another defining feature of submarine life. Sailors often share tight quarters known as racks. Each bunk is little more than a padded shelf with a curtain for privacy, stacked 3 high in narrow compartments. Storage space is minimal, limited to small lockers beneath the mattress. In some cases, when a submarine is fully manned, sailors practice what is called hot racking, sharing the same bunk in shifts so that one sailor sleeps while another is on duty. For recruits experiencing this for the first time, the adjustment can be jarring. The idea of calling such a small space home takes getting used to, but over time it becomes routine. Meals are another important part of submarine life. The galley, though small, is vital for morale. Food is served 4 times a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a midnight meal, because submariners work around the clock in rotating shifts. The variety and quality of meals can be surprisingly good, especially at the start of a deployment when fresh produce is available. As the weeks pass, however, menus rely more on frozen and canned goods. Still, sailors often say that meals are one of the few constants in an otherwise unpredictable schedule. Perhaps the most striking part of being inside a submarine is the absence of daylight and natural time. Once the vessel submerges, the outside world disappears completely. There are no windows to show day or night, no weather patterns to track. Life is measured in shifts, often 6 hours on duty, followed by 12 hours off. For new sailors, adjusting to this rhythm can be one of the hardest parts of the job. Sleep cycles shift, and without sunlight, it is easy to lose track of how long they've been underwater. Even though space is cramped and conditions are demanding, submariners take pride in their environment. The submarine is more than a ship. It is a sealed ecosystem that keeps the crew alive while they operate in some of the most hostile conditions on Earth. Every piece of equipment, from oxygen generators to water purifiers, plays a role in sustaining life. New sailors quickly learn to respect the technology and the teamwork that makes survival possible. For trainees, walking through a submarine for the first time is both intimidating and inspiring. They see firsthand the reality of the job they are preparing for, a world of close quarters, constant vigilance, and immense responsibility. More than anything, it drives home the truth that submarine service is not just another assignment in the Navy. It is a unique calling, one that demands adaptation, resilience, and pride in being part of an elite force that operates out of sight beneath the waves. One of the most crucial aspects of submarine training is learning how to respond when things go wrong. On land, mistakes can often be corrected with time and resources. Underwater, however, the margin for error shrinks to almost nothing. That is why every submarine trainee spends time inside a damage control simulator, a training environment designed to recreate the chaos of real emergencies without putting lives at risk. The simulator is often housed in a massive steel structure that mimics the interior of a submarine compartment. Trainees enter expecting a classroom-style lesson, but what they encounter instead is a living, breathing test of survival. The moment the exercise begins, alarms blare, lights dim, and instructors unleash carefully designed crises: ruptured pipes, spraying water, fires erupting from electrical panels, or smoke flooding the compartment until visibility drops to only a few feet. For a new sailor, the experience is both frightening and eye-opening. Water gushes through cracks and seams at pressures strong enough to knock someone off balance. Trainees are forced to scramble with heavy wrenches and clamps to seal leaks, working against the clock, while instructors watch every move. In another scenario, the room fills with thick, choking smoke, forcing sailors to don emergency breathing masks and navigate blindly through the haze. These drills teach them to trust their equipment, stay calm under pressure, and rely on their team skills that cannot be learned in a classroom alone. Fire is one of the most dreaded threats on a submarine, and the simulator does not shy away from confronting recruits with that reality. Controlled flames leap up from panels, forcing sailors to grab extinguishers or fire hoses and attack the blaze head-on. The heat, the noise, and the shouting of commands all combine to recreate the panic of a true emergency. Yet within that chaos, trainees are expected to remember their procedures, act with precision, and above all else, protect the submarine and their crewmates. Perhaps the most sobering part of the damage control simulator is the understanding it leaves behind. After experiencing these drills, sailors realize that survival in a submarine often comes down to seconds and teamwork. No one person can save the vessel alone. Success depends on quick communication, trust in one another, and the ability to act decisively when the environment itself seems intent on defeating you. The lessons learned in the simulator are not theoretical. Veterans often tell stories of moments at sea when real emergencies mirrored the drills almost exactly. Whether it was a sudden fire, an electrical failure, or a dangerous leak, those who had mastered their training were able to act instinctively, preventing disasters that might otherwise have claimed lives. For recruits, the message is clear. The simulator is not just practice, it is preparation for survival. By the time they complete this phase of training, sailors carry with them a newfound respect for the dangers of submarine service. The controlled chaos of the simulator drives home a truth they will never forget. Life beneath the ocean is unforgiving, and their best defense is readiness. Beyond the grueling drills, physical endurance, and technical expertise, every recruit must understand the deeper purpose of the submarine force. Training is not only about learning how to survive underwater, it is also about grasping the responsibility that comes with serving on some of the most advanced and secretive vessels in the U.S. Navy. A submarine is not just a warship. It is a strategic asset, a silent guardian, and in many cases, the nation's ultimate line of defense. Instructors take time to instill this sense of mission into every sailor. They emphasize that submariners live a life unlike any other branch of service. While surface ships display their strength openly and aircraft soar visibly above, submarines work in silence, undetected, patrolling beneath the ocean, where few eyes can ever follow. Their advantage lies in their invisibility, and with it comes a unique responsibility: to operate in places others cannot reach, and to provide intelligence, deterrence, and, if necessary, decisive action. Recruits are reminded of the dual nature of their duty. On one hand, they are sailors, maintaining a vessel worth billions of dollars, keeping its systems operational, and ensuring it remains seaworthy. On the other, they are guardians of national security, tasked with missions that often remain classified even to their families. Many will serve on nuclear-powered submarines, some carrying ballistic missiles with the power to deter entire nations. Others will man fast-attack submarines, designed for stealth, reconnaissance, and tactical strikes. In either case, the stakes are impossibly high. The mission also demands sacrifices. Submariners spend weeks or months at a time cut off from the outside world, without phone calls, internet, or even the sight of the sun. For many recruits, this is the hardest adjustment to make. They must accept that their service means missing birthdays, holidays, and family milestones. Yet they are reminded constantly that their sacrifice allows millions of others to live freely and safely on land. This sense of quiet, often invisible service becomes a source of pride. One lesson driven home during training is that submariners are part of a legacy. Since the early days of the Cold War, U.S. Navy submarines have operated as both sword and shield gathering intelligence, hunting enemy vessels, and ensuring that adversaries know the United States has capabilities that cannot be ignored. Recruits are told that by joining this community, they step into the shoes of sailors who once carried out some of the most daring missions in naval history, missions that remain untold even today. For many trainees, this is the moment when the purpose of all the rigorous training comes into focus. The endless drills, the long hours in simulators, and the mental strain of adapting to life underwater are not simply challenges to be endured. They are the price of entry into one of the most vital and elite military forces in the world. By the end of this phase, the weight of the mission becomes clear. Submariners are more than operators of advanced technology. They are a human shield, a silent force standing between peace and chaos. And for the recruits who have endured the trials of training so far, this realization transforms their mindset. They are no longer just sailors in training. They are future guardians of a hidden, formidable fleet that protects the nation from the depths. Among the most terrifying emergencies a submarine crew can face is fire. Trapped deep beneath the ocean's surface, there is no chance of evacuation and no fire department waiting outside to respond. The crew itself is the only line of defense, which is why firefighting training is considered one of the most critical elements of submarine preparation. Every sailor, no matter their specialty, must become a firefighter first. The firefighting simulator is a facility designed to recreate the intense conditions of a real onboard fire. Recruits enter a mock-up of submarine compartments built with steel bulkheads and narrow passages. Instructors ignite controlled blazes, filling the environment with thick smoke and searing heat. Inside, visibility can shrink to just a few inches, and recruits must navigate blind, relying on touch and communication with their teammates to make progress. Wearing full protective gear and breathing apparatuses, trainees learn to manage hoses in confined spaces. Unlike fighting fires in open environments, the challenge here lies in the claustrophobic design of the submarine itself. The crew must move in tight formation, dragging equipment through narrow hatches and maneuvering around corners where heat and flames intensify. Even with protective suits, recruits feel the overwhelming force of the fire pressing in, driving home how unforgiving a blaze can be in such a setting. But the simulator teaches more than technical skill. It drives home the importance of calm under pressure. Panic in a real submarine fire could cost the entire crew their lives. The instructors create scenarios designed to disorient recruits: sudden flare-ups, alarms blaring, or simulated casualties. In these moments, trainees must demonstrate composure, communicate clearly, and continue to press forward despite the sensory overload. One exercise emphasizes teamwork above all else. A single sailor cannot put out a fire on a submarine. It takes a coordinated crew. Each recruit has a role, from managing the water pressure to maintaining lines of communication and ensuring air supplies are functioning. The lesson is simple but vital. Survival depends on unity. A failure by one could endanger everyone. In addition, recruits practice containing fires rather than always extinguishing them outright. Sometimes the goal is to isolate a blaze to prevent it from spreading, buying the crew time to stabilize the submarine and maintain critical systems. This requires a strategic mindset, balancing immediate threats with long-term survival. By the end of the training, recruits emerge drenched in sweat, exhausted, and often shaken by the sheer intensity of the experience. Yet, they also leave with a newfound respect for the dangers they might face and the knowledge that they have the skills to fight them. The fire simulator doesn't just test their endurance, it forges confidence in their ability to face chaos in the most hostile of environments. For submariners, this training represents a sobering truth. The ocean outside may be hostile, but sometimes the greatest dangers come from within. And when fire breaks out beneath the waves, the crew must stand together, ready to fight not just for the ship, but for each other's survival. If a submarine is disabled deep underwater, one of the crew's last lines of survival is the ability to escape under pressure. It is a scenario no sailor ever hopes to face. Yet the Navy insists every submariner be prepared for it. This is where the pressurized submarine escape trainer comes in, a towering, water-filled facility designed to simulate the harrowing conditions of an emergency ascent from the depths. The trainer itself resembles a massive vertical tank, rising several stories high and filled completely with water. At its base sits a chamber built to mimic a submarine escape trunk. Recruits are led inside, where instructors walk them through every step of the procedure before the hatch seals shut above them. Once inside, the pressure in the chamber is increased to simulate the environment of a submerged submarine. Even here on land, recruits feel the weight of the ocean pressing down on them. Wearing specialized escape suits, trainees prepare for one of the most daunting tasks they will ever encounter. These suits, bright orange and airtight, are designed to trap a bubble of breathable air around the sailor's head and upper body, while also protecting against the frigid temperatures of the sea. Inside the trainer, recruits must trust their equipment completely, because hesitation or error during the escape can have fatal consequences. When the signal is given, the hatch opens to the water, and recruits must rise through the vertical tank in a controlled emergency ascent. As they shoot upward, they are instructed to exhale steadily, the entire way. Holding their breath would cause their lungs to rupture due to the expanding air pressure. This is a lesson that instructors drill into their minds repeatedly before they ever attempt the climb. The journey to the surface may last only seconds, but for recruits inside the pressurized tank, it feels like an eternity. The experience is not just physically demanding, but psychologically grueling. Some recruits struggle with claustrophobia inside the escape trunk, while others panic at the sensation of rapid ascent through cold, dark water. Instructors are present every step of the way, monitoring their progress and intervening if necessary. But the goal is to force each trainee to face the fear of isolation and the unknown. For many, the first successful ascent becomes a turning point. Emerging at the surface, gasping for air, they realize that survival in a worst-case scenario is possible. More importantly, they gain confidence in their ability to act under extreme pressure, even when the odds seem insurmountable. This training also reinforces another critical truth of submarine service. Technology may fail, but human skill and courage remain the final safeguard. A submarine may be worth billions of dollars, but in a life-or-death situation, what matters most is the crew's ability to respond with discipline and precision. The pressurized escape trainer, then, is not just about preparing for disaster. It is about instilling resilience, teaching sailors to control fear, and giving them the confidence to trust both their training and their shipmates. In a vessel designed never to surface until its mission is complete, knowing that an escape is possible brings a measure of assurance, even in the most unthinkable of circumstances. After weeks of physically exhausting and mentally demanding training, recruits who make it through to the end face their final milestone: graduation. For many, the ceremony feels almost surreal. What began as an overwhelming introduction to the Navy, with early mornings, strict discipline, and relentless instruction, has now transformed them into members of one of the most elite communities in the military, the submarine force. Graduation is not only about handing over certificates or saluting superiors. It symbolizes a transformation. Recruits who once arrived uncertain, nervous, and untested are now sailors who can handle fire, flooding, and high-pressure emergencies. They know what it feels like to crawl through smoke-filled spaces, to seal bulkheads against rising water, to fight flames with little more than a hose and teamwork, and even to escape from the depths of a pressurized submarine. Each skill represents more than just a box checked. It represents a commitment to survive and protect their fellow shipmates no matter the circumstances. The ceremony itself is often simple, but its meaning runs deep. Families who attend can see in the faces of their loved ones how much has changed. The posture is straighter, the movements sharper, and the confidence unmistakable. Sailors now stand as guardians of a fleet worth billions of dollars, entrusted with machines that remain hidden beneath the ocean for months at a time. Instructors, too, take pride in the moment. They know the challenges each sailor endured, and they recognize the sacrifices made along the way. Many of these instructors once stood in the same position, nervous recruits hoping to prove themselves. Their guidance has shaped the next generation of submariners, ensuring the force remains strong and prepared. Graduation does not mark the end of the journey. For these new sailors, it is the beginning of a career that will demand even more from them. Ahead lies advanced technical training, long deployments, and the day-to-day life aboard submarines where every action, no matter how small, plays a part in the survival of the crew. Yet walking across the stage at graduation proves they are ready to accept that responsibility. For the Navy, each graduate is more than just another sailor. They are the lifeblood of a force that relies on secrecy, precision, and discipline. A submarine cannot function without every crew member operating at their best. From officers to enlisted, from engineers to cooks, each sailor plays a role that keeps the vessel hidden, lethal, and ready for any mission. Graduation is both an ending and a beginning, the closing of one chapter and the opening of another. It signifies not only survival of the boot camp ordeal, but also readiness for the challenges of service aboard one of the most advanced machines ever built. These sailors now carry the weight of history, tradition, and the trust of their nation with them into the depths. And as the ceremony ends, with salutes exchanged and orders given, the new submariners leave not just as individuals, but as part of a brotherhood and sisterhood that will stand watch beneath the seas, unseen but essential, prepared for whatever the future may bring.